Welcome back to the new life of this channel. Having a background in IT, I decided to go back down the route and build a bit of a production / home lab environment. I'm going to repurpose this channel and bring it back to life, showing services, features and equipment and hardware. As you can see, we've got quite the abundance of hardware in this little rack. Well, I say little, that's a 42U rack. So we've got a Dell EMC, sorry not Dell EMC, M1000E blade center with an M820 and an M600. This doesn't get used because the power consumption is ridiculous for it. Above that we've got HP Storage StorageWorks JBOD, and then a HP P2000 StorageWorks SAN, followed with an R730, and then two Fujitsu Primagy RX 2540 Model 4s. These are powerful servers and they get a lot of bad names for themselves for no reason, apparently. Parts wise, they're a little bit difficult to get hold of, but in the majority of circumstances you'll be able to run them off anything. These are on rails and they're actually pretty well spec'd. These servers particularly have two Xeon Silvers scalables, which are obviously very nice processors. So they've got dual CPUs in here and 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM at the moment. Eventually I will spec it out because the R730 has 128 gigs of RAM, but I'd prefer them all to have a similar amount of RAM. These all run ESXi hosts, and then they're clustered together in a vCenter for a bit of a production environment that I run. As a bit of an engineer, we run like an IT service for the film labs that I work with. We offer like a dedicated order management system which runs off these. It's currently being in the process of being made, but for now we need pretty much modern hardware to get it to run, because we were originally running off the M620, which is quite a dated processor in this world now. It's at least 10 years old. So they're the servers. If I can find out how this panel goes back on. And then these just clip in, slide in just like HP rails do, or Dell rails. And then they lock in place with a little latch on the left. And then above that for the network, we've got a Cisco ISR 4441X. This is a integrated service router from Cisco. Very high throughput, very powerful router. And it only draws 50 watts when it's running, which is brilliant. And then below that, excuse the mess of the Ethernet cabling. I did have it all structured, one in and then flowing, but I got carried away. I forgot about that. And this is a 3850 Model P, which is a 48 port gigabit PoE switch. And then under that we have a patch panel, and above it a patch panel as well. So what I'll do, I'll get everything booted up and I'll come back when we're reached to that point. So right now the switch and booter are rooting up, so they're making a little bit of noise. And then what we'll do, we'll give the Power Edge a boot. This is the quietest server out of the whole bunch. That's about as loud as it gets, which is really quite nice. It's a pretty quiet server to run. And then I've got the monitor plugged into the top, a Fujitsu server here. So what we'll do, we'll boot that one up and we'll boot the one below it as well. And these are quite noisy little servers. Very power efficient though, being scalable series processors. They only draw about 100 watts each. Then I've just got a little monitor plugged in here, and you can watch the boot up process. Once everything's booted, we'll head upstairs and give it a connect with the desktop PC, and we'll get everything configured and show you how it runs on there. So noticeably, the R730 has 10 drives plugged into it. I was using this SAN here, but it runs on iSCSI and it's painfully slow for these. So that's been decommissioned and we've installed the drives out of there into the R730. And at the moment, currently waiting for some parts to arrive to turn this JBOD into a direct attached storage over SAS to this. So then these will be filled up and connected via SAS to the R730 for a network attached storage with VMware vSphere. And that will give access to all these servers to share the same storage, a bit like OpenStack. And Basically, the blade center is not even touched. The power consumption is too high. It consumes the same amount of power as all of this together in one unit, so it's not feasible. But the actual blade itself, the M820, has 2 Xeons and 384 gigs of RAM. Well, there's actually 512, but because it's only got 2 CPUs, it won't show all the RAM. But yeah, for production slash Homelab environment, the 730 is a great server. I mean, you can do quite a lot with them. For example, you can, on the screen here, you can view quite a lot of features, like the IP address for the iDRAC, if my camera will focus, which it doesn't seem to want to. There we go. But they're quite power efficient, and obviously being 730, they're quite late CPUs, and the DDR4 RAM support makes it quite a common component to get. ECC RAM, obviously, and it even comes with a DVD drive, which just shows Dell for you. And then, as you can hear, the servers are quieted down a bit now, and we're currently booting into ESXi. And that's this top server here. And then going around the back, we have everything neatly organised, minus this VGA cable for the monitor at the moment. Everything's widened to the side, power on the right, network on the left. And I will be adding a load more Ethernet connections for the servers, because the R730 has ridiculous amount of NICs in there, so I'm going to make use of them, especially for an ESXi server. It makes sense to have multiple network ports. The Primoges, these have all got SFP cards in too, so they all got direct attached SFP fibers. Most of these are 10 gig little transceivers. Obviously I don't have 10 gig in the network at the moment, but I am looking to implement that into the 3850 switch. So these cables won't be in the way when the rack's filled up entirely, but for now that's basically it. And the blade center at the bottom, it comes with the Dell Power Connect switch, I'm pretty sure it is. It's like a micro one that runs in the back of the blade center, and all of this fits into a IBM 42U rack. So this should be booted up by now, hopefully. And what's going on here? Fatal error on bus 0 device 3 function 2. So we've got to reboot the server here. Don't know what's happened on this one. Let's plug that in and find out. So it turns out ESXi threw a kernel panic for some reason. So let's try and boot that up again. That should sort itself out, hopefully. The R730 series have a really nice user interface. Quite modern compared to the M820 down there. But yeah, all this running together with, so we've got the 3 servers, the router and the switch plugged in, draws 400 watts all in, which is the same power consumption as the blade center with one blade in. So you can imagine it's quite efficient to use dedicated server hardware as opposed to blade centers, unless you have a data center, because yes, they are convenient to fit 16 blades in. However, in a home lab or production environment, it's quite power consumption for a single blade, for example. So let's hopefully this boots up and we'll get back when it does. Hopefully it boots this time. I have no idea what happened. It just seemed to kernel panic and did some weird thing. Yeah, this is a 730 with 2 Xeon E5 2620 P3s with 128 gigs of RAM. Again, I want to look to upgrade all the RAM in these because we need a lot of power for the tasks that we run on these. So eventually these will probably be spec'd up with 0.5 terabyte each, but for now what's in them is plenty. Storage wise, we're going to eventually integrate some more SANs and connect them via SAS to this as well, and these will run straight from the ESXi controller with a virtual machine to manage them. Potentially something like FreeNAS that will kind of do it, or we can even just do a Windows distributed file server, which works well from my experience. So once these are all booted, we'll head upstairs and go to the desktop and show you the back end of these machines. There we go, we have a good boot this time. So I will join you at the desktop. So here we are at the desktop side of it. This is the vCenter that's running all these clusters into one host. So you see here we have shared resources across all the hosts. So we've currently got 225 gigs of memory and just over 7.5 terabytes of storage, as well as 95 gigahertz of CPU performance. So over here on the left we have all the hosts that are currently in here. So we've got one host running a domain controller and the other host running the actual Vcenter server appliance. So we can go into this and you can see the whole interface, just like you would on ESXi. It's quite handy to have all the clusters managed in one host. You don't have to run around connecting to different boxes, which makes connecting to all the machines individually quite easy. So this is my domain controller that we're running at the moment. We're currently in the process of resetting up an Active Directory because of a hard drive failure. We lost all the storage because we didn't back it up, but that's a conversation for another day. So that kind of brings Draw to the end of this video, and if you're interested, please like, subscribe and comment, and I will get another one out as soon as possible.